Clearing, incredibly important. And, for example, in an ideal world, you want to clear the ball, say 90% plus, right? I know with our kids, it can be a little bit of a challenge. And so, my goal here is to introduce you to a pretty, fairly basic clear that really works all kind of levels and skill groups, in my opinion. So this is called diamond. It's a diamond clear. It's pretty basic. Most of you probably already know of it. Okay, so we're gonna start with our goalie, obviously in the crease. All right, so there's a shot or turnover, something happened. We want our D guys to banana cut out. Boom. It's important to banana cut out because you always want to be able to see the ball. All right. And then, so we'll have our midfielders in. So we have an LSM, midi, LSM, midi. And sorry for my writing. All right. So it's called a diamond because of the spaces that we will be clearing. All right. So the LSM is going to go deep. They're going to go to the far restraining box. LSM, far restraining box. All right. So our two midfielders, okay, so again, let's say this is our box side over here. Our two midfielders, the closest to the ball, or closest to the spot, is going to be our check down midfielder. So in an ideal world, whenever there's a shot, right, we never even want to set up in a clear. We just want to be able to tell our guys to get up and out. And so even before you set up in any kind of clear, oftentimes if you have have a midfielder check down to the ball, it's an easy way to get it up and out. So like what I stress to my guys is like, in a perfect world, we never set up in a clear because we're going to just get up and out. And also you have that LSM just naturally in our clear, breaking up field. So that's another option. So we have our check down midfielder. We have our long stick midfielder going far. All right. So we have our box side. Okay. And then so opposite box side, our second midfielder is going to be there. All right. So as you can see right now, we're just missing really one last spot to our diamond. Okay, and I would say this is probably, at least with the kids, is probably the most difficult of the part of the clear. But as you can see, we have our LSM far and our two D guys have banana cut out. So that means there's one other defenseman. All right? So the rule that I like to say, it's the closest guy to the box. It doesn't always work out that way. So we want our D guy subbing off, running to the box to be replaced by a midfielder. Now, the purpose of that, you want to, typically our short sticks are better ball handlers than our long poles. And so we are just subbing our D pole out to get another ball handler on. And this is why we call it a diamond. From the midfielder, looking at the positions that our middies need to go, including our LSM, it's just a diamond clear. Anyone have any questions so far? Yes.
So I think one of the things I struggle with at lower levels is how fast should that goalie clear be? I mean, is it immediate, like less than 3 seconds, or?
So, okay, yeah. If we just want to get it up and out, like for example, this little check down midfielder, if our middies crash and trying to look for the ball, we can get the ball up and out like immediately, within the first, 3 seconds. Now, if we're not able to do that, then the clear is going to take some time to develop. Yeah. Any other questions right now? And this is a clear that I ran at such a young age. I ran this in high school. We ran a little bit of this in college. So it's a pretty basic clear, but I think it's very helpful. All right. So now we're set up in our diamond, okay? This midfielder, you know, the assumption is because he's hanging out down here, he's going to get an attackman, okay? So if this check down midfielder has an attackman on him, what do you think he should do? And why? Yeah, but like where do you think he wants to go? Where do you think he should go if a midfielder has an attackman on him? Across the midfield line, right? So if this midfielder has, even if he doesn't have an attackman, they're going to end up crossing midfield line, but we want to really instill into our kids that we want to be aware, right? It's all about awareness and kind of thinking a few steps ahead, and that's really where a lot of the opportunity comes in for lacrosse. And so he's going to cross over the midfield line. So we'll have this midi right here. He crossed over the midfield line. And so now the next step is kind of understanding being offsides, okay? So let's say the goalie passes the ball out to one of the defensemen. So this box side defenseman has the ball. Now this midfielder wants to push across the midfield line, and we would call that stretching. You want that midfielder to stretch across the midfield line, and so if that midfielder stretches across the midfield line, our original midfielder went across the midfield line because of the attackman. What does that mean for our far side midfielder? Right, they have to stay back. All right, they have to stay back. If not, he goes over, that's going to be offsides, okay? And so these far midfielders, the opposite box side midfielder and this box side midfielder, they're the most important in this clear. They're going to have to be the ones that are paying attention on who's onside, who's offsides, right? And so in order for this midfielder, the opposite box midfielder, to cross over the midfield line, we have to make sure that the box side midfielder is onsides, allowing him to go over. Okay? So again, let's now assume that our box side midfielder is onsides. We stretch diagonally opposite the box. And do you understand what I mean by stretching? When I talk about stretching, I want this midfielder to create space as this defender is bringing the ball up. So that's what I mean by stretching. And our LSM should really never be in the picture. We want to get them out of there. And really, it's this check down midfielder, this floating midfielder that is really hunting for the ball. So they're going to be running really end to end, depending on which side the ball is carried up on. And they're not worried about onside responsibilities. It's the two other midfielders. But ideally, as this midfielder stretches, this defenseman is bringing the ball up, and there's just going to be this kind of like sweet spot. And it works on both sides of the field. And so that's kind of my favorite clear that I love to use and been using for a long time, and it's called the diamond clear.
So Mark, say for example, the defender has a ton of green grass in front of him, and we turn him loose, just turn him and burn him.
Yeah.
If we were teaching this, should we teach the defender to hit that midi that's coming across, or just keep on turning and burning and have that midi stay back? Yeah,
I mean, if you're comfortable with with the stick skills, I would say just hit that midfielder, because obviously the ball moves quicker than the feet. But if you're not comfortable yet with your team, their stick skills, he can just run the ball over, and that midfielder, that floating midfielder, just has to be aware that they may have to get back on sides. Yeah. And the thing about this, really the advantage comes in because if we're clearing the ball and using our goalie, that's one extra man, right? So we'll have that uneven advantage if we include the goalie in our clearing scheme, all right? And again, I think it just all comes down with ball movement, quick ball movement. It takes a little bit of time to develop, but again, this is one of the basic clears that I think is pretty, yeah, it's pretty good with kids and easy to learn. Excuse me? Oh, I want my attackmen deep out of the way. Yeah, so the attackmen are not in the picture. I don't want them doing anything really. Now, depending on game plan, obviously, we would have kind of schemes or what we want our attackmen to do if we're having issues of clearing the ball. But I will say this. A lot of times this clear, the more active your attackmen are, once you have possession of the ball, when you're clearing it, that's going to be the most beneficial thing because a lot of our kids really struggle to move our feet, and then you have the defenseman coming down, crossing the midfield line, getting chased and hacked, and then our attackmen are just kind of like standing flat.